it was when I was myself. So to speak like someone just like you. I was just a daydreamer who was unemployed, a little dissatisfied with the world, only looking at the ceiling of the day stuck in the bed. Also spending time just looking at the ceiling, just like it was when it happened. Suddenly, the ceiling came up to me. As I began to wobble in amazement, I was lying on the edge of the ceiling, looking at the bed. The gravity was upside down. The land I knew became the sky. The sky became the earth. And I just got worried. Is that the downside to the destruction of the world? Is that like everything falling out into the outer space? I fell back down to the bed as I lay on the ceiling for a long time. And I felt it back then. Oh, the gravity was working only on me at its will. And then I thought about it. If the gravity of all the worlds were reversed, wouldn't everything be reset and gotta be stacked from scratch? Wouldn't there be anything I could do? Not long after I fell into the fantasy of lying on the ceiling like that, the gravity reversed again for about 1 minute, 30 seconds. I don't know what was going on with the cycle, but looking at the repetition of falling to the bottom of the ceiling and falling to the bottom of the bed, it was kind of fun and exciting, like riding a roller coaster at first. But by the time I got bored, it began to get faster and faster. And then it became a repetition of that reversal. And I was floating in the middle of the room like zero gravity. I couldn't catch anything on the bottom and on the ceiling. And that was the beginning. Floating in the middle of the room, I got more bored than worried. As I went through what I'd never heard before, I got a little dumbfounded, but not even scared. I just got bored. So stuck in between the spaces, I started a playful exercise to do the Zazen meditation like a monk. Then I felt a little nauseous or itchy. But it was like the first feeling of something that I'd never had before. So I looked at my arms and legs, and my whole body kept being simplified like a statue, and then turning back. It seemed like trying to move on to another dimension. My consciousness was clear, but my body was simplified. A feeling of being reorganized into something efficient. I don't know. And it was strange. Let's say that it was the effect of another gravitational force on me. And like a chosen person. And then suddenly my body changed. So it was like not the process of being someone else, but the process of becoming one with the world. I kept thinking over and over again, but as I saw it in the eyes, I couldn't help but just believe it, because I could see. And then I arrived at the place. Actually, I don't know if I can say that a place. There were all the time and space in that place. I don't know if I was able to see by the choice of one of them all, but the first thing that was shown was a collision. All of the conflicts in the world and the shapes in them. It flowed like a textbook of history listed in the order of the times of the icons at first, precisely to the reverse order from my living time and space. And then it unfolded in front of the eyes of the primeval age. No, I mean, it unfolded in a world of compression like an icon. People in the icon were crying, angry and fighting. Then the exhausted people began to pray for all of their violence to go away, and it appeared with the fluttering of some beads in the air, and it began to take a form of absorption of the raw evils of all of its violence and all of its sharpness. And then it was floating in the air without doing anything. It was a time when no violence existed as the people wanted. At first, it became very peaceful. But there was also an uncomfortable existence in this peace. Some existence that has appeared suddenly in the world. The existence forced the peace for them. It was so scary and uncomfortable that there's something like God but not defined for anything. It was the birth of their prayers and aspirations, but I think they wanted to solve the problems on their own. So they prayed, let us be able to fight for our peace again. Then the existence disappeared, and they were able to regain the control of all of their sharp things. The grip of the sharp things has now begun to give way to new prayers, give us eyes to protect our things. Give me the wisdom to see in detail of everything in the world. It was a prayer for themselves, but not the prayer for God. The prayer for themselves. And they began to make the very minute and detailed observations of the world for their own sake. And they wanted to be able to see and coordinate to the very smallest of the fields so that they won't swing their sharp ones. And they became able to see each other's tiny little things. But not everyone was hoping for that kind of world. There was a person who was scared of those eyes, looking with unclear purposes from some moment. Every time people looking at the world in detail, his hope was to hide deeper and deeper. He continued to find a place to hide and disguise his body. And then he realized that there was a camouflage to run away from the details, and he avoided the detailed gazes, overpainted all over his body and flat on his stomach. And then soon he became aware of it. The fact that he can't completely hide when he has eyes. So he hid even the eyes of his own with his arms. But even though he didn't want to be seen, the desire to see was unbearable. So he kept pulling out his eyes to see the world sometimes and hiding again. But then it came to contact the eyes of the people with detailed eyes. Then the world got reversed at once. It was a shocking event that turned the world upside down, that these detailed eyes couldn't see the one who was not detailed. There was no faith in the entangled world. There were people who had no purpose and no faith. A scientist who loved humans so much thought about it. If the world keeps just growing without any purpose, mankind will surely be destroyed. The scientist wanted to create the purpose of human life and the belief that it could be continued. But he thought that the reason why the beliefs of the last few centuries disappeared was because of the invisibility in our eyes. So he wanted to create a creature under eternal life and make its eternal existence, the reason for the existence. The scientists believe that if a man lived with any such purpose, it would be the happiness of mankind if only the faith shown was not destroyed. for the rest of his life. And even the descendants, they kept breaking away from the shell and healing the disease in order to create a religion for the eternal life of an animal called crayfish. After hundreds of years of the family business, people began to believe in the act and the reason of the existence. And then everybody started following that behavior. Without the purpose of faith, only the act remained. Humans chose to make a machine, like removing unnecessary reproductive organs and the behaviors to help the efficient treatment and the breakaway of crayfish over a long time. The essence of all mankind, the machinery, was perfect but did not correspond to the purpose of the scientist. The mechanism of that machine kept the breaking away of crayfish over a long time. So artificially evolved for long, crayfish became intelligent. Crayfish that became intelligent got angry. Because of its intelligence, it wondered why it existed. It wondered what meaning was in its life. But the only one it could ask for it was itself. Then the crayfish began to break all the machinery in the area around it. The moment when the perfect machine just collapses by the God they created. Crash again, came back into that crash. There was a sort of iconic, compressed world spread out. This is all I saw. I don't know what exactly these things were, but to illustrate what I've seen, this is what I tell.